One of my favorite studios of all time is P.A.Works. I absolutely love so many titles that come out of their studio. Shirobako, A Lull in the Sea, Makia, Angel Beats, and yes, one of my favorite anime of all time, Hanasaki Roha. What I've always loved about their studio is they have a great focus on coming of age stories for young characters, but additionally getting into adulthood. Characters that are, making their break into the world itself, getting into business and whatnot, and just trying to find a place that they want to spend their future in. It's sort of something that can really gravitate to a lot of people, tug at the heartstrings, but also being very relatable in some way. But I've always loved their focus on specifically originals. These are titles that their creative minds within their studio are actually creating and, showing their own vision to the world. And it's always been a focus for their studio. In an interview with Real Sound with the upcoming release of Alice in Wonderland Dive in Wonderland, president of P.A.Works Kenji Horikawa sort of goes into detail about the risks of launching original titles, how P.A.Works has such a focus in them and why he has a focus in them, and yes, the fear that people will eventually forget how to create originals, sort of lose that ability to kind of envision their own worlds. Instead, kind of rely on specifically adapting works that already have preset vision for them. They open up the interview by saying P.A.Works produces many works set in contemporary times. Does this come from developing projects with an awareness of challenges young people face today? Horikawa says that approach to planning is probably something unique to me within the company. For me, it's fun to simulate what kind of answers we can reach through a work in response to current issues. Things happening in society, in the company, in the anime industry, those feel the most real. So I like to take to those issues, reframe them as anime, and pose a question through them. That's my way of enjoying originality. And again, like I said before, this is something that hits personal to me. One of my favorite anime of all time. I had it as my number one anime of all time, but at some point I kind of just finally said, look, I can probably take this from the top list because it's always been a very personal thing for me. I never really claimed that Hanasaki Roha was the greatest anime of all time. It's just one of those things where it was there at the right time for me in making a big decision in my life. And thus it sort of had a soft place in my heart. What I got from a certain point in that story is it does sort of self-reflect on the idea of what you should do in your life, in your future, and what you want to do in your life. Doing something that is special to you and is fun to you and is rewarding to you, or doing the status quo. And that was something I got really big out of that. And again, it's something that I see in a lot of their works. I mean, Shirobako has a ton of that stuff in it. A Lull in the Sea has quite a bit of it. These original titles sort of do reflect on a personal choice that a person can make and what it means to them. The interviewer says, one of the challenges across the anime industry is the difficulty of launching original projects. Yet, P.A.Works consistently produce originals. Where does that drive come from? Getting to the heart of the problem right now. He responds, it is true right now, making original works is difficult. Production costs keep rising. So, from an investor's perspective, originals are naturally riskier, and I understand that. On the other hand, there are simply too many works being made, and I feel creators are exhausted just trying to meet the demand. As a result, that primal urge of, this is what we really want to make, is diminishing. Originals require building the story, world, and characters entirely from scratch, which takes a huge creative toll. The question is whether there's still something worth making despite that struggle. But if things keep going this way, I fear people may eventually forget how to create originals when they want to. That is such a very, very deep subject. I really do feel this, and I think that is sort of casualty of how originals work. I've always said this over and over again. People always question, why is there not more originals? Why is everything manga adaptations? Why is everything light novel adaptations? Why aren't there more original works anymore? It feels like, yes, way back in the day, there was a lot of titles that came out, especially OVAs, that were just completely original works that they made out of their studios, and it was so fun and creative. And I feel like, yes, as the years went along and anime got more popular, this sort of aspect that creating anime adaptations of manga in order to sell the manga or sell the light novel became very popular. A lot of these publishers with written work were going, hey, it's really profitable to have them make this for this much money, and then we sell this many of the novels, and suddenly, bam, we made profit. It's a great advertisement. That's what the joke has always been, is anime is advertisement for source materials. And I feel like that became so popular, and then anime demand and licensing became bigger and bigger overseas, that it became a lot more fruitful in order to produce anime adaptations of things and make so much money from it. The sad thing is that studios just turn into tools for the publishers. The publishers are essentially using studios as tools to just adapt their works as advertisements, and the studios themselves are losing their own identity. And yes, a lot of studios are being created just specifically to be a part of that system. They're being created left and right to become another tool for the publishers. And the side effect of that is that these studios, the people within them, lack originality. Yes, they're still creative minds, and I'm not saying that everybody in there is like completely lacking creativity, but they're losing that identity of being creatives because all they're doing is just adapting what was already there. Oh, let me see the manga. What are we adapting? Okay, there's our art style. We got that established. Just make that drawing. Good, gotcha. Okay, so there's the script. We got the script already. We know what we're doing. Oh, we have backgrounds. We don't even need to do storyboards because the manga has the storyboards in there. We got it set. We know what to make. We know what everything looks like. They're not using the bit of their brain where it's sort of creating something from scratch. And that's what he sees. And yeah, the other part of it here is something that I've always echoed to people, why we don't see more original works. It's too risky. With the publishers giving the money to make something, it's easy. The producer comes in with the money. They have, the publishers in on it. The publishers adding the money in there as well. Everybody's giving the money to the studio they need in order to create it. Whereas somebody being a producer with an original title, there's nothing pre-established. There's no fandom for the original source material to echo that there's a hype for it. There's no hype being built up around the title because nobody knows what it is. And I can go back and I look over the last year. Lazarus had a pre-established fandom because, yes, the guy that made Cowboy Bebop, that got hyped up really well. But that's not the case for everything. Apocalypse Hotel. I was screaming at the top of the mountains going, holy crap, this is such an incredible show, but nobody knew what it was and nobody cared about it. I see barely anybody talking about it. Apocalypse Hotel just completely got lost. Zenshu, it had Mappa behind it. But even for having Mappa behind it, crickets again. That's scary. Shoot. Moonrise. That was a massive amount of undertaking. That probably took so much money to make that 18 episodes. And nobody was talking about it. Absolute crickets surrounding. That was an amazing epic of production and nobody knew it actually came out. Absolutely crickets when I released my video on that. Nobody seemed to know anything going on. One of the producers, he was screaming about the fact that there was no marketing going on for it, even though it's technically his responsibility to the marketing for it. Nobody knew it happened. Again, it's a massive amount of risk, so much money being put into it, and there's so much risk that it won't even take off. Nobody will notice it. It will drop at the wrong time. Nobody will even have paid attention to it. MP Angler. Nobody was talking about that original when it came out. Mecha Ude. It was a little bit of a hype there, but mostly crickets. Jellyfish Can't Swim the Night. Crickets. Girls Band Cry, it had a fandom. It had a cult fandom. It were really loud fandom. A massive respect for that hype there. You guys had some energy. But for the most part, crickets. It's absolute crickets around these originals, and it's sad. There's only like these very rare moments where things like Licorice Coil just kind of take off. And I think that a lot with Licorice Coil was just really good marketing. And then you, of course, had Kojima getting on board with it as well. There was like these sparks of hype that were just building up around it. But for the most part, again, these are risks. These are always risks. Shoot, from what I remember when Shirobako came out, as amazing as Shirobako is, it's an absolutely incredible original anime by P.A.Works. Even then was sort of crickets. But he's right here. The other compounding issue is that as the costs keep rising, as it costs more to make anime, as it's more difficult to get resources and animators, that risk keeps getting bigger. But additionally, and I'm surprised that he doesn't get into this, the other problem that you have right now is the plethora of anime coming out each season. Very well-known adaptations of very popular source material and stuff like that. With more pull of more shows coming out each season, it's becoming a bigger risk. Because how do you get this one title to stand out amongst 70 plus shows? It's hard. Because again, you don't have that pre-established fan base. Again, I've got to point it out again because it's so recent and it's so real. Apocalypse Hotel. It was so sad. It had a really stellar team behind it, but nobody knew existed. Again, it was fighting against a massive pull of anime that season. But he's so right. The longer it goes like this, where they have that source material to work off of, it's the simple thing of people are going to forget how to fabricate things from nothing. He continues, at P.A.Works, we present a company's vision every 3 years. We've made many original works, and since they've been well received, that's our identity. While today's industry is focusing on adapting existing works to chase big hits, yep, like I said earlier, as a small studio, we want to show a different set of values. We want to be a company that continues to make originals into the 2030s, and that's what we're working towards now. So this is something they're keeping to, which I'm happy about. I'm very happy about that. Despite the fact the industry is changing, focus in the industry is changing a lot, they're keeping true to what they want to do. We want to bring in visionaries. We don't want to bring in people that can copy from a manga. We want to bring in visionaries, people that will create something new. This is something that they're wanting to keep true to, which I really appreciate. It's sort of the same reason why I love something like Kyoto Animation. Kyoto Animation technically is bringing in a lot of works from the outside, having their own little kind of, contest where people can bring in their written work and they'll publish the work and they'll adapt the work. But they're technically adapting into something new. In a lot of cases, even though they do, award somebody with a novel or something like that, in a lot of cases, they'll take it and they'll make it their own thing in animated format. A lot of cases, what they're animating is not what's in the original. To achieve that, we're creating opportunities for open dialogue, even online. We recently established a literary department to spearhead project development. Staff skilled with articulation are leading efforts to encourage more discussions via our internal groupware, fostering an environment where creators can freely interact and share ideas on a daily basis. Cool. This does technically sound a lot like Kyoto Animation. Again, that's technically, an award ceremony system, bringing in people with their works and then rewarding them and then adapting it, whatever, but it sounds like a very similar idea. They want to foster this communication between their members and, hey, give us a good idea. Let's go with it. All right, you're ahead of it. Let's go. It's super cool. The future of P.A.Works. P.A.Works is headquartered in Toyama Prefecture, with more anime studios appearing outside Tokyo. How you view this trend as one of the older regional studios? Yeah, very interesting there, because it does seem like a lot of studios are focused on being inside of the big cities and whatnot. You have more resources, more individuals in the area. It is nice to have something that's in an external location. People can be a lot more, free out there. The costs are going to be a lot less, all that kind of stuff. I think it's a good thing. There are people who, for various reasons, can't move to Tokyo. From a long-term perspective, the countryside is actually a good place to nurture talent. Tokyo has high turnover, so many quit before they've honed their skills. On the other hand, once people gain experience, some want to move to Tokyo, where their admired creators are. To retain such talent, we need strong company identity and unique value that only we can offer. That's something I'm more conscious of here than when I was in Tokyo. Very interesting perspective there. Again, I do like the idea of, rather than having to have talent go to Tokyo to come outside of Tokyo. Of course, I'm the type that I don't like the big city. I've tried the big city. I did not like it. So I do kind of respect this idea. So in the end, it's not just about lower rent and personnel costs. It's the company's identity that draws people in. Interesting. Exactly. And I don't think the identity can just be dictated top down. It only truly motivates people when, through dialogue, they themselves express, this is what I want to make. Building that internal environment will take more time, I think. Very interesting. I mean, I would assume that the cost is probably a part of it, let's be honest. But, and again, that's sort of a counter to the cost of making originals and the risk there. So, but it's still cool to have an identity there. In Alice in Wonderland, Dive in Wonderland, I felt the signature P.A.Works touch. Do you see a reflection of the studio's identity there? Director Shinohara has been directing with us for a long time, so he really understands P.A.Works style. Personally, after making Makia, When the Promised Flower Blooms in 2018, I intended to step back from the frontline work, but staffing shortages kept me involved. Now I've been passing on to young producers how we've approached making originals. They're beginning to build works that reflect their own identity, and I think that's great. The more they shape their own visions, the better. That is super cool. If you want to nurture young creators, you have to let them off the leash. I think that's really kind of where I get a feeling from there. It's like, yeah, I want to step away from this. I want to keep that feel of P.A.Works, obviously, that style, that thing that we want to kind of, get across to our viewers and our fans. But I want to have these young creators, come up to the front line and take over the mantle. Go out there and give your vision. Take that leash off them and let them show their own visions. Otherwise, there's no point bringing them up. You'll just become another show. Because that is sort of a fear that a lot of people have. Like, the simplest way to kind of convey this is the KyoAni style, the P.A.Works style. If you see a key art of a P.A.Works style, you know it's going to be P.A.Works. The character designs and everything look very familiar. Kyoto Animation, you see a screenshot of Kyoto Animation character, you're going to know it's Kyoto Animation. Being allowed to sort of adjust that a little bit and give their own, vision is the important thing there, because they can get stale. You can get samey look. I mean, saber face kind of mindset here. Again, this is an artistic standpoint. We're talking about vision and creative art and writing style and whatnot, but it's still an interesting perspective in his mind. Cultivating the next generation. Moving forward, what do you consider most important in nurturing young talent at P.A.Works? Horikawa says, the industry is changing a lot. Employment systems are different from the past, and salaries are now closer to that of regular companies. That's very interesting. I don't recall if I've actually seen that that's actually happening quite yet, that they have reached the point where they're getting closer to regular salaries. I may have missed it at some point, but that's good to hear. That is extremely good to hear. It says now closer, But that's good to hear. They're at least bringing that pay up. And that could be through scarcity, honestly. It's becoming easier to make a living, which is good, but also means one's personal sense of purpose is questioned more. If everyone just follows the same path, nothing interesting will come out of it. I hope more people with strong curiosity and drive emerge, and that they will take the lead. What matters is whether we can create paths for such people to rise. Interesting. I do respect his mindset here in the idea that he's acknowledging at least that people can find themselves getting stuck in stagnation. And the idea, this is the route that you take. This is what everybody wants to go their path for. If somebody steps forward and say, I want to break from the mold and do something different, to nurture that and help them out. If they have that strong curiosity and drive to emerge, bring them out of that shell. Don't get stuck in the cog. Japan has a problem with that, getting stuck in the cog. He wants to bring people out of that usual. And it could go definitely to what he was talking about earlier with the idea of people not wanting to create originals anymore. They're all going based on source materials. Find that next manga, copy paste the art style, copy paste the backgrounds and the architecture and everything like that, the style and everything, and just do that. Just turn it out. Don't look around. Don't look around your table. Don't think for yourself. Those people that stand out and say, I want to do something different. Those people that say, I don't want to be on the production line. I want to make something different, shake up the world, nurture them, bring them out. It's interesting. It's very interesting. I do give this guy a massive amount of respect. Again, obviously because he's created one of my favorite studios of all time. But the work that he's done in sort of nurturing this studio and bringing it forward and, again, fostering new creative minds and trying to create new stories. They're not all bangers. Let's be perfectly honest. It's not like everything that P.A.Works turns out is going to be amazing. I mean, as much as I wanted to love it, I wasn't a massive fan of Aquatope. I wasn't a massive fan of Aquatope. I loved a little bit of Akiba Maid War, but it wasn't a massive hit for me. But there's so many titles like Shirobako, and I loved Datazuku. It was really good. Makia was fantastic. Sakura Quest was kind of hit and miss for me. Like I said before, Olo and C, Hanasaki Oroha, Angel Beats, they've created so many great titles that I definitely think kind of stands out from the crowd. But like I've said before, I usually love getting into these interviews just because I like to see sort of what makes them tick, what kind of makes them work. And this is definitely a really good look into what he sort of thinks about, originals. And I sort of agree with him. And again, I think a lot of that has to do with the plethora of anime coming out every season and sort of all these studios just becoming tools for publishers to advertise their source material. I mean, yes, you have other studios that are like Trigger and whatnot that are still creating a lot of original titles. And again, I love how Kyoto Animation handles their work. It's pretty much internal publishing that's turning into anime adaptations that a lot of cases are different from the source material. There's still a lot of really great studios out there that are trying to break from that mold, but I'd love to see more of it. Yeah, plus I love the idea of not having to worry about sources constantly going, actually, in the source material, it does this. And you're like, shut up, I don't want to hear it. That's the greatest thing about originals. You don't have to worry about the stupid sources constantly wanting to tell you what happens next. Shut up, sources. I want more. Anyways, that's the interview. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, hit the like button down below, comment, let me know what you think of this whole interview. Do you want more originals? Do you crave this? Do you love P.A.Works? Let me know. Additionally, if you like this content and you want to support channel more, become a member of the channel. Until next time, y'all take care.